Welcome to the Penny Z Show, where you get to learn how real people overcame real issues. Get ready to take notes and, most importantly, take action. Here's your host, Penny Z.
Hello, everyone. This is Penny Z with the Penny Z Show. We are here focusing on transforming lives, one life at a time, with topics that are real, relevant, and relatable. As you know, we are in the series called Overcoming I'm Not Enough to Being More Than Enough. And today, our fantastic guest is Kris Langworthy. And Kris has a fantastic background, and I'm so excited to introduce you to her. So let me give her background, and then we will have Kris share her I'm Not Enough story to becoming how she is more than enough in her world today. Kris is a wife and a mom. She is then a nurse and an entrepreneur in her world. In 2006, her eldest daughter was diagnosed with the malignant brain tumor. It was that experience that was the catalyst for her to step out and begin to build a personal leadership, development, coaching, and consulting business. The first few years of her business, it was called the Hokey Pokey Clinic. I actually like that because it was a place for people to turn themselves around and see themselves differently as someone who has what they need to succeed. Today, the business has a different name, but the same heart. Impact Zone Strategies is Kris's new business with the same heart and a different name. She seeks to equip and empower growing leaders with insights and strategies to become better understand themselves and understand others. She wants people to help have a better and a healthier life, become resilient leaders, and no matter what their role or their title, live their best life. So please welcome with me, Kris. Kris, welcome to the Penny Z Show.
Hey, Penny, thanks for having me. It's good to be here.
Kris, you know yourself better than I do, and I'm sure there's some things that I missed in your bio and didn't present as well as you would. So is there anything else you'd like to share with our audience before we go into your story?
Well, one of the fun things that is not in my bio is that we have 6 children and 5 of them are daughters. And so we have, people say, well, can you talk to me about drama in relationships or drama in team? And I'm like, well, okay, I have 5 daughters. Does that qualify me for anything? And people are like, you have 5 daughters, and the deer in the headlights look. And so it's kind of a fun fact that I do know a little bit about leadership just through real life with my kids, right?
Absolutely. I mean, parents are resilient, and I know you're going to talk about that. And I don't have any children, and I think sometimes maybe that was a little bit, it held me back on my leadership and getting to be self-confident and a little bit of, if you will excuse my wording, a badass. It took me a little bit longer to get there because I didn't have children that helped me along. So,
well, in light of that, I had a quote that I read years ago that still sticks with me that said, mature adults don't have children. Children make you into a mature adult.
That there is something that is very wise right there. It's very wise.
It's kind of stuck with me because it's kind of, talking about resiliency and getting back up. You don't know what you don't know when you start parenting, right?
Absolutely. Absolutely. Well, thank you for doing what you do. I'm sure your 6 children and your husband thanks you. As you had said, you're a wife and a mother first. So those are 2 very, very important roles in the home and in our community. So thank you for that. And I'm sure, Kris, you probably have a story or 2 that will help contribute to our I'm Not Enough and Overcoming I'm Not Enough series. So what will be your story today that you'd like to share with our listeners?
It's kind of funny because getting ready for this, I hadn't thought of this example, but I'm flashing all of a sudden to a different memory. And when our oldest daughter was diagnosed with cancer, it was within the first week that I was laying at the Ronald McDonald House and thinking about, oh my gosh, we got a child with cancer. I'm pregnant. I've got this going on. I've got that going on. How in the heck am I going to do all of this, right? And recognizing, I woke up one morning with this experience that still just really defines me. You have what you need for success. And I was like, what? It was just kind of like one of those surreal moments. It was like so clear, so whatever, you have what you need for success. And as I laid there, it was this realization that I had a vision of her healthy and whole at the end of, and it was really a whole mindset shift of realizing I really was already wired for success, but looking at, I was already trained as a nurse. I had already worked with special needs children. I had worked with a friend, my best friend's son was in treatment a year prior to our daughter being diagnosed. I had training as an insurance agent. I was like, oh my gosh, I really am enough for this. I really do have what I need to navigate this. And I've got the tenacity and the spit to stand up, and I knew how to talk to doctors. And so, yeah, I guess it was like, wow, yeah, I do have what it takes. I do what it, and it shifted because I realized at that point, most of my life, I kind of was in like a passive victim state and not even realizing it. And so it was kind of that moment that I go back to all the time when I talk to women or any clients in particular and say, you have what you need. It's just, we need to help you uncover it. Let's help you. Let's intentionally walk through your life and show you what resources are already in your back pocket.
I absolutely love that. I actually have something similar on my vision board that says that. I don't know that it says exactly in those same words, but it has that same meaning. So we're kindred spirits when it comes to that. Let me ask you, Kris, because I might have missed this. When you were discovering that you have all that you need, was it something that came to you, and how did it come to you? In a program, in a vision, in a prayer? I might have missed how you discovered that or uncovered that for yourself.
I would say it was kind of like a vision. It was, it was an early morning, 4:00 in the morning, everybody's sleeping all around you, and you wake up, and it's kind of a supernatural, like, knowing. It's hard to explain to people because people are like, well, what was that like? Were you talking to somebody? And I'm like, I don't even know how to explain it. It was just like, it was just there. It was just like something dropped into my spirit, and it was just like, I just knew that I knew. Mm-hmm. And it was just like, I can't even say I was thinking about it really that much. I mean, I was kind of thinking about, okay, what is this day going to hold? But it was like, I suppose I was kind of in a place of prayer or meditation, just kind of in that silent space before the day started, before, okay, we have to go back up to the hospital. We have to do this. We have to do that. And it was in that space. So probably like a prayer or meditation space that it was there. So I definitely felt like it was a gift from heaven. That's for sure.
Absolutely. And I've experienced some of that as well, where meditating or prayer, quiet time. To me, it's in what I have a phrase that I say, in the quiet of my day is when I find my way. And it's almost like
I'm going to write that one down.
Thanks. It's when the noise of the world goes away and you just have, whether it's meditation with light music or meditation really with quiet, or listening to a meditation tape or just in silent prayer. In the quiet of your day is when you find your way. And so I've had experiences like that. So I wanted to understand if that's what you were experiencing as well. So
totally. Thank you. I love that because that totally, that nails it. And that's exactly what it was.
So when you discovered this for yourself, and obviously it was around a difficult time and, being a new parent and having your, child experiencing cancer and being pregnant and having to go through this, who else was in your life, or what else, once you discovered this, what else were you able to do, or how were you able to get support of it? Was it just your own self, your own gumption, or did you have other people or other things that helped support that mindset?
Well, I had friends around me that were amazing, right? Because none of us do this alone. It's like we can have the inspiration, but we really don't do it alone. We have community around us. We have people that speak into it. And I've been blessed with a really big network of friends that I can just pick up the phone and I can say, hey, I'm having a crappy day. And, I can remember one day when she was in towards the end and we got assigned a roommate at the hospital, and we had never had a roommate prior to that. And they assigned us a roommate that was a reoccurring brain tumor. And Penny, it felt like a kick in the gut. I mean, it was like, here, you're getting through treatment, but this is what you have to look forward to. And that was a day that I really needed a friend, right? I had to call my girlfriend and I said, this stinks. This is really hard. And I was mad and crying and scared. And she was the one that kind of held me back. She's like, no, if you have to deal with that in 5 years, you'll be okay. Mm-hmm. But you know what? You've got what it takes for today. You go back and you take care of her today and we'll be okay. And it was like, so those friends to hold you on track. And I think that's what I love to do with people is I love to help them uncover that. But I love to stick around their life, kind of around the periphery so that if they want to call back and say, hey, you know what, Kris, I'm struggling. I'm having a bump here today. Can you just remind me? You know, there's a song that's out there, remind me who I am, you know, because it's like, I need to know that, right? Remind me that I'm okay.
Mm-hmm.
We need community. We need community for sure.
Absolutely. And I think that's one of the things that I've learned in my journey, and one of the things that I constantly and hopefully share through the Penny Z show is that we are not alone. And even though many times and many of us feel alone in our day or in our struggles or in the I'm not enough stories that we have in our life, we do have friends, we do have family, we do have, you know, our spiritual family as well for people who, you know, might be followers of God or followers of other spiritual needs. There are people in your sphere that can support you and help you. And I think part of the hardest part about that, and what I love hearing what you did in the hospital room, is that it's hard when we're alone or we're in that headspace to reach out. Yeah. And I think that's the most important time for us to reach out, when we are feeling alone and you know, nobody else has experienced this. Well, there's a lot of people in this world, across our world, that has experienced similar situations, maybe not this exact same thing. And so for you to reach out, I think is a great message for our listeners today, is you're not alone, and reach out.
I think one of the things I've really had to learn is courage looks like asking for help. Courage means asking and saying, hey, but you know what, I'm asking for help. And that really isn't a lack of courage. That actually is courage. And so that I want to celebrate when people do that, you know, that I think you're just right, that we have to remember we're not alone, because I think there is that voice that tries to say, nobody understands you, nobody gets you, no, you're crazy, you're nuts. And it tries to isolate you. And the more isolated you are, it sucks the life out of you. Absolutely. And I think about even when you and I met, just the connection and just the supporting each other, and just, you know, the more connections and support and relationships that we have, it builds that somewhere somebody is going to have a story that we can relate to. And that's really, you know, like I like to talk to people about resilience, that really that's part of resilience, is finding who's got that story that you need to hear. Who's got that story that they get you? Because the number one desire of every human heart is to be heard and to be understood. Mm-hmm. And it's like, okay, if you've gone through something and I can relate to it, I can hear you. I can support you in that.
Absolutely. And you're right. I mean, when we talk, I could talk to you for hours. I absolutely, you know, we have a kindred spirit, we have similarities, we connect, we share our ideas and our stories and our experiences, and it's a place where I feel home. So I want to thank you for, you know, sharing today on the Penny Z show, and also being a friend in my world as well, because I have felt that same friendship with you as well, Kris. So thank you for that.
Likewise.
Absolutely. I loved what you just said about resilience, because before getting on the show, we were talking about resilience. And I think this is a great segue in sharing your story of what you came through, and now you're experiencing what it is that you're supposed to do and supposed to help other people with. And that's part of that you had mentioned to me is resilience. So share with me how you're kind of overcoming, and your experiences that you've had with your daughter and over the years have led you to what you're doing today. Share with us what you're doing today.
So what I'm doing today is just really, I love helping people like build that resilience. You know, the business is Impact Zone Strategies, and it's not an original quote to me, but it sums up so well what we're about. And it says, you can't stop the waves, but you can learn to surf. And you know, that whole thing of, I want to come alongside people and I want to help them identify and build up their core strengths, so that, you know, life is going to throw them a curve. You know what? I didn't expect to have a daughter with cancer. I didn't expect to have a daughter who has had 3 jobs in 3 years, you know? But how do we embrace that, not try to run from it, but to have the courage to say, you know what? Number 1, this hurts. Number 2, this is hard. Number 3, okay, how do I get up? How do I move forward with this? And how do I at least understand myself well enough to know how it is that I best get up? And so that's what I love to work with people is, you know, helping them understand you and I, I was chuckling earlier before we were talking, you were sharing some frustrations with some things, and I'm thinking, yep, I know Penny's behavioral style enough to know that that's exactly why that irritated her. And that's why she had to get back up and past that, right? And I think when we understand ourselves well enough to know at least what triggers me or what kind of blindsides me, that helps us get back up. At least I hate shadow boxing in the dark. I hate not knowing what I'm wrestling. But if I have enough self-awareness to know that I'm like, okay, my biggest fear that I still deal with, I know it, is like that fear of social rejection and lack of people understanding me. Darn it, anyway, I wish at 50 some years old that I was past that. It still shows up, but at least I can call it out in myself, or I can call it out in my girlfriends, and I can say, hey, you know what? I think this is what got you stuck here, and let's get back up and let's go back after it. And help you get unstuck. And so that's what I do with the coaching and consulting, is I help teams that are stuck, that can't figure out why they can't move forward, where they're button heads. I help them understand themselves on where they're personally stuck, and just help them dream again or reimagine their future again, and what's possible.
Well, because when we think differently, we can do differently. And so I might be putting you on the spot, so I apologize. But I wanted to ask you, in your company and working with your clients, one of the things I've learned, and you had mentioned earlier in your story about the mind shift changes that we have to make. Do you find that a lot of things that we learn when we were younger, that we bring into our adult world, we then have to learn how to do differently? What have you experienced around that, and what is it that you do or can share around your business and your coaching that helps people through those kinds of shifts in our life, pivots in our life, being able to do things differently or think differently?
Think differently. Well, even to see ourselves differently, right? I think is kind of what you're saying.
Right.
And so, yes, definitely. I think those childhood experiences have way louder of a voice than we ever dreamed they had. They shape us, and they have unexpected repercussions than we ever think. And, I think about, as a young child, I would butt heads with my mom. You're so rebellious. You're so full of yourself. You're so, but the rebellious one is the one that bothered me the most. And for the longest time, I thought that I was just a really rebellious, naughty child all the time, until, I work with these profile assessments, and I help people understand on, a profile level, on really understanding how you're wired. I'm a really low compliance person. And one of the adjectives was rebellious. And they said, actually, what we've changed that to is pioneering. And, oh my gosh, that totally changed my perspective. But I realized how many times in my head I was stuck and afraid to move forward because I was still having this voice of I was being rebellious and I wasn't doing what I should do or what was the right way. And even I spoke to a group of nurses here last week, and I realized I was getting stuck getting ready for that presentation because I didn't feel like I was polished or professional or proper or compliant enough. And to realize that really, no, it's because I'm pioneering and I'm outside the box, and I'm using things like joy to build their resilience. And so I'm doing some things that might be maybe a little goofy, might feel a little silly, but I actually have science behind what I'm doing, and I can actually prove to you that this is going to build your resilience, whether you realize it or not. But it was a mindset shift that freed me, that I wasn't rebellious. I was pioneering. I was an outside the box thinker, and I was a creative thinker. So does that answer your question?
Absolutely. And I love that. And you helped me now. And several of my guests have talked about, neuroscience and how that part of our scientific world is starting to come into helping us with our personal world, our affirmations, our visioning, our mind shift. And, there's something that you even helped me with earlier that I was just thinking about. Before growing up, I would always think asking for help was a sign of weakness. And so I'm thinking, as you're talking, I'm actually going through a I'm not enough moment, thinking, I'm being weak if I ask for help. And when you said courage looks like asking, is what I wrote down. I may not have written it down exactly perfect as you said it earlier in the show, but I was like, it's courageous to ask. I was thinking it was weak to ask. And so just that light bulb just in this show has helped me with a mindset that was coming from my childhood. So
isn't
thank
that
you for
fun? And see, that's what,
that. Amazing.
that's what originally, that's where Hokey Pokey Clinic really was at, right? It was like,
I love that title, by the way.
well, and so funny, true story is that was a moment of me bumping into this. I wasn't enough too, because I was at a mastermind and I just launched out of my nursing career because I had staff that were like, you're going to open the Hokey Pokey Clinic. It'll be a place for people to turn themselves around, because we were doing this. I mean, the gift always shows up, right? I was constantly talking to my staff about shifting mindsets. I didn't realize I was doing it at the time, but they were like, you are always challenging our mindset. You're set on this mindset thing. And I was like, yeah, you're right. Because Sarah had gone through treatment before that. And I had realized you have what it takes. Let me help you find it. Let's get you. Well, so I'm sitting in this mastermind and I said something about the Hokey Pokey Clinic and I felt the snicker go through the whole mastermind group. And I had the audacity to ask, what was that? And they're like, oh, nothing. We just thought it was kind of a cheesy name. It's not very professional. And Penny, I will tell you, I wish I would have had the competence and confidence to go home and still be standing strong in it. But it set off a chain of events that ended up, I talked with an attorney and she's like, well, you probably can't have it. It's probably a compliance issue. And I'm like, oh yeah, there's that compliance thing again. And all this stuff. And it was this moment of feeling like I wasn't enough and that I wasn't a grown up in the business world, that I was just playing games. Mm-hmm. But it really, I still use it in my presentations because I talk about it's one thought at a time. It's one action at a time. You put your right hand in, you put your left hand in, you shake it all about, you turn it around, mm-hmm. and eventually you can put your whole self in and find your whole life has been turned around. And it's a perfect, because I'm such a visual learner, it's such a perfect visual for people and it's fun. So the mm-hmm. neuroscience of fun and learning and putting that all together is beautiful. But I didn't have the confidence at that point. I didn't feel like I was enough or knew what I was talking about at that point to keep the name, and didn't pursue it hard and fast long enough to keep it. But like I said, it still shows up in presentations today. So,
well, congratulations for recognizing that and identifying it. And that's actually what I thought of when I read it, you know, obviously, and read it for your bio and you share it. I wasn't thinking it wasn't professional, but I see how, you know, different people with different background and different interpretations, I was looking at it probably similar to the way you look at it, that it was a fun and lighthearted way to put a spin and to help people cope with something that's very difficult or can be dark or, just a challenge in life. And so, to me, it was like, everybody likes the hokey pokey. Let's do it. Let's do the hokey pokey of life, So, well,
it still
Kris,
shows up. It still shows up.
Good. I'm glad that you were strong enough and overcame that feeling to be able to keep that into your presentations and your programs. So we, unfortunately, like I said, I could talk to you for hours. We're getting close to the end of the Penny Z show. So I ask all my guests for two things at the end. Number one, if there's anything that you would like to share with them in closing, whether it's about your business or it's just about, some words of wisdom. And then number two, how they can get in touch with you.
So words of wisdom is just let me encourage you. You are enough. You do have what it takes.
So Kris, we've lost you for a few minutes.
And that so I Kris, want you.
Can you hear me? I'm going to have you stop for a few minutes.
Absolutely.
We lost the connection. So unfortunately, I'm going to have.
Good. And it was like all of a sudden my daughter was trying to call in. I'm like, get off my phone.
So we're going to stop for just a second so they can edit this out. And then I'll let you, I don't have to ask the question again, but I'll let you go ahead and just start with words of wisdom. Okay. Oh, we lost you again.
Okay. Yep, just a second. My phone just is trying to tell me that. Oh, shoot. Just a second here. There we go. Are we back?
Yep, I'm back here. Okay.
My phone is trying to glitch out on me. So words of wisdom I would have for people are just to believe you are enough. You are enough you have what it takes. You have what it takes for success. And if you're feeling stuck and you're just feeling like, hey, I can't move forward, I don't know what to move forward on, reach out to me. We've got, like I said earlier, I'm a visual learner and I have what they call the AAA Jumpstart package. A lot of us know what AAA is, right? That roadside assistance. We come alongside people. Let me be your jumpstart. Let me be somebody that can come alongside you and let's use that to help you get going again, because I just want to see you successful. Because, like Penny here and all these people I've connected with, you've all got gifts and talents, and we need you on planet Earth. We need you to bring your stuff. We need you to shine. And just let me help jumpstart you and get you going again. I don't want you to be my eternal coachee, but let's just get you started and get you going so you can shine, people. Let's go. So if you want to reach out to me, the best way to connect with me is Kris, Kris, at impactzonestrategies.com. Impact Zone Strategies. And just a quick, Penny, we didn't talk about what an impact zone is, but I'm a Minnesota girl. We're from the Midwest. We don't have waves, but what I have learned is that out on the West Coast where you're from, the ocean and surfing, that there's a place in the wave for a surfer that's called the impact zone, and that it holds either maximum potential or maximum danger, depending on your perspective. And that's really where I come alongside people and say, you know what, let's surf this wave and let's harness the energy so that you can use the maximum potential out of it. And so that's where the name comes from. And so for people that are stuck or just like wanting to navigate some waves in life, Kris at impactzonestrategies.com. Give me a shout. I would love to connect with you. And just, let's talk about and let's just have a fun conversation. It doesn't have to be anything else, but let's just jumpstart you and get you going.
Excellent. Well, Kris, thank you again so much for your wisdom and your time today on the Penny Z Show. It's always a pleasure, and all my best to you and to your business and helping so many more lives to have an impact, to be able to be resilient, and to be able to help more people live their best life. So just thank you again for being on the Penny Z Show. For all of our listeners out there, anyone who would like to find out more information about Kris, we will also have her information on our website at www.thepennyzshow.com. You will be able to listen to our podcast with Kris, of course, through our link on Facebook, LinkedIn, iTunes, Spotify, Instagram. So follow us, like us, share us. We'd love to be able to reach 1 million lives. Thank you so much. Thank you for listening to the Penny Z Show. Thanks again, Kris, and everyone have a great day.
Thank you so much for listening. If you want to hear more, including specific ways to empower yourself, go to thepennyzshow.com.